I think we're live. I think we're live. Yeah, we're live. Hi, everyone, or good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are today. I'm with Ioana Teleanu. Please pronounce your name for
Yeah,
me
no, that
because
was
I'm
pretty accurate.
pretty
Teleanu.
Oh, thank you so much. Good evening to you. You're in Bucharest, Romania right now.
That is correct.
And I so appreciate you taking the time so late in your evening to chat with us. I'm in the Boston area right now, so it's still early in the day for me, but I'm really excited to have you here today. You're one of the few designers who have been working on AI interactions in the last few years. Most people have been working on NLU, chatbots, and all that other stuff to do with AI in the past decade, but very few have been focused on AI first interactions. A little bit about you. You're currently working at Miro as a lead product designer, and you joined about a few months ago. And prior to that, you worked at UiPath. And the really exciting thing is that the product you launched won the Best Invention Award of 2023 by Time Magazine. So super impressive. And just from the outside looking in, the last year must have been super exciting for you. You're speaking at South by Southwest in a month or so. So that's huge. That's a huge, huge deal. And what else? You interviewed Jacob Nielsen on your podcast, which I listened to from end to end, and I thought it was fascinating. I was super impressed. I don't always agree with him on some of his AI views, but in that interview, I just thought, wow, he really made me think about things differently. And I thought you really brought out a lot of these aspects that typically people don't talk a whole lot about. Beyond that, you also run UX Goodies on Instagram with hundreds of thousands of followers. You're amazing every which way we look at it.
Thank you
Is
so
there
much
anything
for
I'm missing? I'm sure I'm missing a bunch.
No, it feels like listening to this description, it sounds incredible for me as well. Like the past couple of months have really been great for me professionally. Feels like everything I've been doing for the past 10 years has converged to this point where I found meaning, purpose, direction, and everything really falls into place very nicely. And yes, I'm speaking at South by, which was this very intense dream, and it felt extremely absurd, and now it's happening. And I had two conversations with Jacob Nielsen, one private, one on a podcast. So it feels like what is going on in my life, but I'm very grateful for everything. Yeah, and the AI space, which gave me a new professional meaning and direction. So I'm happy to talk about this with everyone who's listening,
Hey,
watching.
we're excited. We're super excited. I think we met a few months ago in New York City when you were visiting after the Hotjar conference, where you spoke there as well. And you mentioned that you wanted to speak more this year. And it sounds like things are coming to fruition.
Yeah. I mean, I think the first step is to clarify what you want and then AI magic.
That is true. The little sparkle iconography they use for AI is
Yeah.
very much on point these days. But
I have
you
that
know,
in my talk, like there's a slide about iconography and how everything is, but we can touch about it in our conversation. If I find the right intro into it, I can definitely critique the things that I think are not going well in the AI space, but we'll get there. Yeah. I interrupted
oh
you.
boy,
Sorry.
no, it's okay. Let's start with the happy stuff. So you started designing for AI products when exactly?
It was the I think the middle of 2022. So it's 1 year and a half, a bit more than 1 year and a half. So it's not years, many years.
Yeah.
It's like for such an infant, let's say, niche, the intersection of UX design and AI. I mean, AI is not new, definitely, and many people were designing in the AI space, probably not very formally AI designers, but it's not new. So it has accelerated in the past couple of years. So even 1 year and a half, it feels like I have some experience, at least more experience than most designers yet. But I think everybody, like, it's gonna very quickly, the market will catch up, right? So it feels like I'm a veteran, but I won't be for a lot of time.
Listen, I feel like AI, or at least generative AI, really took off in the last year or so, maybe a little bit over a year. But prior to that, we didn't really talk a whole lot about AI. It was more about VR stuff and blockchain and Bitcoins and all that. And, there were a lot of talks about how we, as designers, should learn about blockchain and learn how to design for Web3, etc. When you start working at UiPath, did you have some kind of a semblance of an idea that this could really take off, or was it just this is a cool job? I like the people, I like the product. Like, what really drew you to that company and the products they were building?
Yeah, at so I joined UiPath 5 years ago. So you could say I'm in the AI space for longer than 1 year and a half. But because UiPath is a company that works in RPA, which stands for robotic process automation, so they were doing computer vision stuff. They were doing AI long before generative AI made this popular. But I was working on products that resembled more kind of control panel of people's automation. So it was very much in the space of conventional interactions and conventional design problems and using standards, common sense standards for making design decisions and classic research and so on. And I've been on maternity leave after I had my daughter Mia, and when I returned at UiPath, I was presented with the opportunity to join this very cool team, a new product. They were just starting working on it. They had something that was pretty basic at that moment, with a lot of design challenges and a lot of opportunities for, I don't know, understanding the AI challenges and opportunities. And it was just like a very unique opportunity. And I'm very grateful that the timing was right, that when I came back from maternity leave, this job was open and the product manager approached me directly. Hey, you have to join our team. This is state of the art thing we're doing here. Come join us. We'll do nice stuff. And so I joined that team, and that's where I started diving deeper into the AI space. They were integrated with GPT before ChatGPT even was released. So that was a long time ago. They were using a bunch of machine learning models. They were also like, it was a pretty, let's say, mature AI product. And yeah, I was exposed to some of the AI problems. And then now at Miro, more AI problems, more AI challenges. And so, yeah, I think I have some experience.
For sure. I feel like you're underselling yourself here. And one thing I want to touch on is I feel like everyone who's familiar with AI at this point had this aha moment where prior to that they were a little bit skeptical. They said, this is just another blockchain or crypto thing. It's gonna blow over, right? And I can say for me, it was realizing, well, if I need to clean data, I usually had to do it manually or use one of those tools to scrape data. And ChatGPT, with very little instructions, was able to do it for me. And I thought this is game changing, at least for the smaller things I'm talking about, and how this can scale for design is probably going to be pretty radical. Was there that kind of moment for you? When was it?
I want to start with a more general observation in answering this question. I feel that what I've been witnessing or observing as a witness in the AI space is that because of the hype that was
Yeah.
created around generative AI, there's this feeling that this is also gonna pass. Like, this is just another NFT thing. This is just another crypto thing. It's the same. Like, people that sell the sun and all these experts, which is a fair observation. Like, everybody's talking about AI, which I think I'm a huge fan of talking about AI. I think everybody should talk about AI. I think through these conversations and by using these AI products, GPT, Midjourney, whatever, pick your AI tool, we're exposing their limits. We're teaching the people who are building them how to optimize them, how to make them better, even more ethical, and so on. So we're contributing to how these technologies are being shaped and essentially how our future will look like. So I think it's really important that everybody considers themselves an AI expert and tries AI technologies and plays around with it. So I think it's these conversations are important. But because of the hype and like the intensity of this explosion, many people are very doubtful that AI is a thing, is really AI a thing. And I think that if you
Yeah.
take the hype layer out of it, it's a big thing. It's really a new internet if you think about it. It's fundamentally changing the way we work because for now there aren't many use cases in which we can appeal or in summon AI in our everyday work, right? And part of that is because products haven't really identified those golden scenarios or the key use cases they can address with AI. Part of that is because AI is still infant technology. So for many use cases, it's not there yet. It's not delivering on the let's say, anticipate or promise results. An example would be UI generators with AI, right? You're trying to generate UI as a designer, and when you get the results, they're mostly disappointing. You can't really use them. You have to super edit them, tweak them, right? It's not really um, supporting your work right now, but it will. So I think that this technology is huge. I'm really diverging from your question, but I think that AI is here to stay, and I think it's really comparable to mobile phones. It's comparable to the internet, and like the internet in its early days when it was very limited and we didn't even know how to use it, and you have to type in an address, and so where are you getting to, and what do we do with this? It's really, we can compare it to some of the things that are now happening in AI, where people are just building things that are technologically possible but are really solving a problem, and that's not a good thing. But in one way, we're discovering what works, what doesn't. Some of them turn into like pivot and turn into something more interesting. So it's a very moving parts kind of situation, but AI is here to stay, and it's been in our lives for a long time now. So content recommendations in our feeds, or Netflix or Spotify, that's AI. Maps, navigation, that's AI. So there's no way escaping it. There's no, it's not a hype. That's what I'm trying to get at. And I think I realized that it's not hype when I first used GPT. I think it's quite similar to your story as well. But even image generators, like when they took off, I realized that they will not be so prevalent like in our lives. They will not be like, we're not going to spend 8 hours a day in chat GPT, but we're going to spend some time from time to time. And maybe it's not going to be GPT, it's going to be a GPT version on our phones. So AI will essentially penetrate our lives whether we want it or not. So yeah, I think it's when I realized that it democratized, these tools are democratizing generative AI, and now everybody in a way can have conversations with AI and can create stuff with AI. And so, yeah, that's when I think I was part of the early majority that just saw it and said, "Oh, so this is what's happening. Something's happening." Yeah, no particular aha moment.
That makes perfect sense. You brought up a really good point in that all these services and tools that we're currently using, like Spotify, Netflix, they're already integrated with AI. And we might not really notice it per se because we're just so focused on, can this give me what I want right now? We haven't really thought about, is there an actual AI behind it? That's a great point. I want to actually talk a bit about what you built at UiPath because I realized that there's somebody had asked the question of, can you give an example of an AI type of interaction? And
Yeah.
I'm at least somewhat familiar, having watched your previous talks about what you built. Can you talk a bit about what
Yeah.
was made and
Yeah.
why it was so amazing?
Well, yeah, I mean, um, while you're building it, and so just some context, the product I was working on at UiPath was essentially solving the problem of transferring data between systems with the help of AI. So essentially, what we were doing, we were revolutionizing the way people copy and paste. And when the product manager described this problem space to me, I was like, "What? Copy and paste? Is this what we're gonna work? Like, this is the big revolution. We're gonna just copy and paste works. Why would you touch it? People know how to copy and paste. We have shortcuts, we have muscle memory. It's fine. It's just, it didn't feel like a problem. But then, of course, I was superficial in this initial evaluation. We're copy pasting documents, so files and any type of data, right? Unstructured data to structured tables. An example would be you're copying an invoice and pasting it into an SAP form, and you hit copy and paste, and then with AI reads what's in the invoice and then reads what's in the SAP form and then matches the information and populates it automatically. So you don't have to copy paste one line, line by line. So it was really an interesting problem space. And I think that solving for the smallest problems, or like the everyday kind of patterns of interaction, or yeah, I know Alan Cooper had the example of the undo button. Nobody has revisited the undo interaction in so many years, and there are so many potential improvements. Like, how do you go back 3 versions and still keep the current version of something? So, like, there are a lot of things that you can do with simple problems, and the simple problems sometimes are actually the hardest. So, to answer your point and the question in the chat, um, one example, or Clipboard AI was the first time when I realized that what's changing. So it was even before Jacob Nielsen released the article about AI being the new UI paradigm, where we're working with intent-based outcome specification as opposed to command-based interactions, which means that now we're telling computers what we want to achieve. This is our goal, and then the computer makes decisions and serves that goal for us, as opposed to conventional systems where if we had a goal, we would have to put one command on top of the other and then achieve our goal. So I realized that we're in a completely new realm of problems and interactions at Clipboard AI, when essentially we had no idea what was going to happen at certain points of the interaction, because we were integrated with GPT and we were asking it some questions or asking for some interpretations of things. And sometimes it could answer something reliable or accurate, and sometimes it would answer what happened. Okay, I made a gesture and then my computer just, I think I don't understand gestures with the new operating systems. Anyhow, um, yeah. So there's that aspect of non-deterministic behavior that AI systems have, right? So you're designing for probability. You don't know what's going to happen. So because you don't know what's going to happen, you can't control that experience. You can't design a flow for it because something uh, surprising could happen, or non-deterministic, unpredictable, essentially. So with Clipboard AI, we had that. It would essentially return answers that were hallucinations or were just inaccurate or were not repeatable. So you would get different results from one try to another, which is also not helpful with building trust with users. And you could also correct some of those things, but how do you teach people to use AI systems? GPT probably has these challenges as well, like mm, at a completely different scale than we did. But we wanted to teach people how to transform, like how do you use AI to transform information from one format to another? Is it as
Mhm.
simple as telling them you can turn meters into kilometers, or they could essentially do anything? How do you teach them to do anything? And so there were a lot of interesting questions there, but I think the most interesting problem when designing with AI or for AI is essentially this aspect of it being uncontrollable, non-deterministic, and sometimes you don't even know that
Mm.
it did something wrong, right? So in conventional systems, you get an error, you know there's an error, you know you communicate it as an error. Oops, sorry, we didn't found this page 404. But with AI, you don't know if it said something stupid. You don't know if it's reliable, if it's accurate, if it's even like not made up. So the user has to decide. So you have no control on how that, if that's going to be a good interaction or a good experience. And you have to design to accommodate this in the best way possible. And I think offering iterations and offering instant feedback, capturing to people, and some instruments of control are some ways, some things you can consider, some tools you can employ to make this a more cozier experience. But it can go anyway. So that's what was really interesting working on Clipboard AI. And yeah, I think that's why Time Magazine were very nice to award us the best invention of 2023. It's because, oh my God, these poor people had some really weird problems to work on. So I think they deserve a prize.
So that's super interesting. You brought up the fact that not only are you designing for the brand new interaction, right? You're rethinking the interaction, copying and pasting something.
Yeah,
And that's a really hard paradigm to break, right? Because people are so used to it. They have an exact idea of how things are going to happen. I don't even think about pressing Command C or Control C anymore. I just do it, right? There's
yeah,
no thinking loop in my brain anymore. And beyond that, even like you're trying to break the paradigm, you're also thinking about trust and safety,
yeah,
because you don't know if the data is going to be a little bit different than what you expected, because you're thinking one thing in your head, right? Because usually copy and pasting is apples to apples. It's exact same thing, but in your case, it's a little bit different. So just to really simplify it, because I like to think everything in terms of if I'm a 5-year-old. One thing I did recently was I hosted Erica Flowers last week on a live chat, and there were about 200 comments on the LinkedIn feed, and she had asked me to collect all those comments into a single spreadsheet, and usually use something called Phantom Buster to scrape that data. And I didn't want to do it, so at the beginning, I was like, I'm just gonna copy and paste it in. 200 times I can just churn it out. But eventually, I was like, screw it. Let me put it into Chat GPT, right? So I copy and paste everything directly from the browser, which is just text format with weird formatting, weird spaces, and everything. And I paste it into Chat GPT, and then it spat out, with very few instructions to turn it into a spreadsheet, basically, and I put it into an Airtable or Google Docs. Is that what the Clipboard AI thing is doing?
Yeah, well, it's really funny that myself and the product manager were having a really hard time explaining what the product does because it can basically do anything. So people were, but like,
Uh-huh.
what do you copy and paste? Anything. And like, okay, but can you give some examples? No, like absolutely everything. So there were different
Yeah.
challenges for each types of structures or documents or files or systems you were working with. So we could copy from unstructured data into structured data. An example would be copying from a contract, which is unstructured, that doesn't have a predictable format, and you copy from that contract into an SAP form, right? So what it happens is that the system, the AI agent, let's call it, looks into the SAP form and then understands its structure and the information fields, the inputs that are necessary, and then searches through that contract to see if it can find the name, the price, the address in an unstructured data. When you're looking at invoices, another set of challenges, like invoices, they have a semi-predictable format, but they might look completely different. So there was this aspect of how do you make sure that you've captured the right information and you still give users the control to say, oh no, this is not an invoice, this is a receipt. Sometimes they're completely similar, but then the machine learning models reading them, understanding those documents with computer vision, they were different. So what I'm trying to say is that there's not, like, with these kinds of products that solve for a big problem space with AI, there are so many things that can happen, and you want to accommodate for that flexibility, but also at the same time you want to be able to articulate what the product is best at. And I think that we're going to see that more and more in the AI space. Like, I think part of why people might get disillusioned with AI, or why yay why they might get disillusioned with AI, or why they might lose trust in it, is because it's not reliable, it's not repeatable, it's inaccurate many times, you can't really trust it, sometimes it makes things up. But I think what products should do is essentially to communicate the right expectations, to set the right expectations. Here's what the system can do. Here's what the system is not very good at yet. And then provide a couple of scenarios in which it's probably going to work well. And so people essentially start building trust by trusting that if I ask GPT, what's the temperature outside, then that's a reliable answer. But if I ask it, like, what year did something happen? I don't know what, then it might hallucinate. But like, build that trust. Like in our case for Clipboard AI, copying an invoice into an SAP form is the golden scenario. That should work. It should just work. We're not sure about unstructured formats, like copying from a Medium article into an Excel file. What do you want copied from that Medium article, right? So sometimes there's so much open endedness that you can't promise that AI is going to perform. But I think that we should all like exercise this muscle of building scenarios for AI, like
Hmm.
like starting from the use cases and not just technology can do this. We can solve anything. We can copy anything to anything. Yes, but what exactly would work best? What do you put your bet on so that people are not disappointed? So, and you're also learning. So you're able to learn and measure, is this working for the scenario that we're promising? Is it performing well? And stuff like that. So yeah, I think I diverged a little from your question, but I think it was worth it.
No, that's a beautiful and fabulous answer. And I just really want to reiterate that you got me to think about this differently, because whenever I copy and paste something normally, I know if it's working or if it's not working. It's very clear, right? And I always trust it. But I didn't even bother checking the comments that I had copied from LinkedIn over to the spreadsheet. And there's actually the possibility that there are some inaccuracies in there. But that's just not part of my mental model anymore because of how I'm used to non AI features. But now that this is a new thing, we do need to think about that as end users. And really, it's kind of our responsibility as designers to make sure the end user is aware of those slight possibilities, even if they're very small. Kind of want to dive into the meat of the conversation here, which is how does someone who's a senior level designer get into designing for AI? Can you talk a bit about when the PM came to you and said, we have this exciting product that we want to launch? How early was it when they first brought in the designer? Were you the first designer, or was it already developed as an idea?
Yeah. So because UiPath was essentially an engineering build company, so many times they just build technologies with engineers, which is something that we're witnessing in the entire AI industry right now. Not many AI first companies are design first as well. They're more like technology first, engineering first. It's like something that should calibrate in the upcoming years and hopefully should create more roles in the AI industry as these companies mature and realize, okay, we've built something, it sort of works, but it has these incompetencies or these parts for which is was poorly designed. We have to course correct, like go back, start
Hmm.
from scratch. Like we're gonna see this more and more. Jacob Wilson was also talking about this in my podcast with him. So but UiPath was similar in the aspect that it's a very technical company. It's building very technical solutions for automations for technical companies. So it's the most technical you can get. So they started with yeah, this idea technically, and the team initially built a, let's say, proof of concept uh, with a PM and an engineer. And then when that proof of concept turned out to be something that was very promising, they brought in a designer. Initially, there was one designer before me for like 3 months, 4 months before I joined, but because the team was based in Romania and the design team was based in Seattle, there was this time zone problem. And like just they felt like, you know, when you're building products from scratch and going in this space of uncertainty and unknown, you want to have someone on your time zone and essentially in the office. So they were looking to grow that design team as well and have more perspectives again, because building in the AI space comes with a lot of unknowns, right? So you're operating with more uncertainty. You have to do more research to de-risk decisions you're making that aren't based in standards and like the things you find on the internet when you search patterns for I don't know what problem you're solving, because it's not defined yet. So we needed to do a lot of research, so we needed more design power. So I joined as the lead designer on this product, and I was also in charge with finding its direction, right? The vision, like, okay, we can do this
Hmm.
technically, but where can this take us? What should this be from a um, experience perspective, from like in the company landscape? What are we actually offering people? So when the PM reached out to me, I saw this opportunity immediately. There was some design, but a lot of room for growth and like just building this into a bigger project and a bigger potential, like tapping into that potential, bringing it to life. And so, but I work closely with a researcher from Seattle, just some insights into the team structure. There was a senior product designer 3 months before me in Seattle, and then also we had a researcher there, and the design leadership was very much involved in this product since it was the product the company was most excited about. And I was leading design from here because I was closer to the triad, right? So the engineering team and the product manager were based in Bucharest, so we could like drive things from here, but continuously inform our decisions on multiple layers with design leadership, with the researcher and end users, and then with other designers, and critique all the time and challenging conversations and debates and so on. So it was a really important time in my career. I'm very grateful for it. And yeah, it essentially niched me, put me on this AI path, and here I am now.
That's amazing. So besides the benefits of having somebody in the same time zone to collaborate and everything, what do you think, or why do you think they picked you? Like, what sort of skills that you had made them feel like this is the right person for this very specific project?
Hmm. Interesting. So I have trouble talking nicely about myself.
Oh
I'm
boy.
working on that, but I can pull in what my manager, she was also based in the US, and how she described me and why I'm the best person for this job. She said that I have and maybe we could extrapolate and see this description as something that's valuable in the AI space. That I am an out of the box thinker, and I can always think about innovative ideas and things that aren't on pattern, like the immediate solution, that I always think outside the box. That's something that I feel is necessary in the AI space, because things are not clear and they're not prescribed, and you really have to be able to operate with wacky things and sometimes wacky ideas and wacky experiments more than anything, where you learn things about how people use these products and your solution. And then another aspect was my capacity to move down the level of abstraction, like go from very big picture thinking, like what are the principles we want to embed in our product from an AI standpoint. And I came
Hmm.
up with these principles and I socialize them in the team and try to bring everyone aboard principles that feel a bit common sense, right? So AI should be trustworthy. You wanna demonstrate the AI's thinking, like demonstrated thinking, explainable AI, things that build trust with your users in the space that's really hard to trust because we don't like it's inaccurate, unreliable, unrepeatable, and so on. You want to make it an invisible experience. So you don't want to yell at people, now this is AI, use AI, push for AI. Like it should just be there when they need it and like presented in a and stuff like that. So I came up with a set of principles. So I was thinking on a very abstract level about what would an AI experience look like how would it surface in our products in an invisible and undisruptive way, and still solve a problem. But then also, I was able to be very tactical, like just move pixels around and find the best kind of button placement for, and just do solutioning with my product manager and by myself and so on. So moving down the level of abstraction. And I also want to add that typically what I've seen in the market and also in my job at Miro, the AI space is unregulated. It's like the Wild West now. We don't know. Everybody's trying out things. Everybody's throwing spaghettis on the wall to see what's gonna stick. Many people don't know. Some things are not even measured. So many people are launching AI interactions. I know about product teams that have launched AI stuff and they don't even know how they're performing, because like everybody's scrambling around to do the next shiny thing, and so some people aren't even learning from these experiments. But what I'm trying to say is that it's a very agitated, like bubbly space, so you really need to be a person that's comfortable with uncertainty, with kind of speed, with some level of yeah, unclarity in general, with a lack of clarity. And I think I'm pretty good at being comfortable with not knowing what's going on and then trying to find out, which I think is a component of any design job, right? So we're de-risking decisions, we're finding the blind spots, we're learning. This is what we're supposed to do. But I think in the AI space, like that's at the maximum, like it's a top volume for that. Yeah. Are you still there or am I cutting? I think I lost you. Am I still live? Can someone say in the chat if I'm still live? He froze. So I'm still live. So good. We have an opportunity for me to pick up one of the questions. Woohoo! I'm going to pick up one of the questions. Okay, great. So yeah. Okay, great. I'm getting comments. I'm going to pick up one of the questions in the chat and go for that. Somebody said that I'm talking too much about I. Well, I can only talk about my experience so far.
Oh,
My,
can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I want to talk a bit about that because I appreciate your feedback, Daniel, but to be fair, I am asking her questions about herself. And she is answering as exactly as I'm asking them. And also, I think it's really important to emphasize the fact that there really aren't that many designers in the AI space right now. And I don't think it's really fair for us to make those extrapolations entirely and say, here are the top skills that will get you a job in AI. That's not possible. I don't think that would scale across all the hiring that's happening in the AI space right now. And furthermore, if anything, the points that you talked about, which is being able to think outside the box, being comfortable with ambiguity and figuring out the first principles that are required for the wild, wild west that is AI right now are incredibly important. If anything, I would, if I'm interviewing for an AI job, design job right now, I would be copying and just regurgitating these answers to land that job. So to be frank, I thought that was an excellent, excellent answer that is highly usable for most other people who are interested in a job working on AI stuff. But sorry about that, and thank you for being so flexible, Alana. That's
Yeah, no, it's okay. I just wanted to when you dropped, I said now's an opportunity to pick up questions from the chat. And I also wanted to yeah, address the I just in this aspect, like to make it clear to everyone, this is what worked for me, and I'm not here to prescribe exactly like you said. This is you should do this and that, and here's the checklist for landing an AI job. This has been my personal experience, and I can speak from my personal experience only so far. And then I wanted to pick up other questions, but now you're here, so you can ask the next question.
no, pick up the next question. This is actually really cool that we're engaging with the audience, and I appreciate you just being so flexible and so open to feedback of any kind, because sometimes we get peanut galleries and some people get really upset or offended, but you just took it in stride, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I'm chill. Like I've been doing content for a long time. You have to be relaxed with any kind of comment. Yeah, so I'm gonna let you ask the next question, and if you want, or I can keep.
Sure. Okay, so we were talking about the skill sets that help you be chosen for this role to build this new AI product. Now that you worked on AI for a little while now, what are some of the differences or changes that you're seeing in your skill set from prior when you joined AI? Like, is there a small difference, or is it kind of just a continuation of your career and skill set and growth as a designer?
Well, I feel that being a designer in whatever problem space you're in, essentially comes down to having the qualities needed for a design career in general. So I think the only aspect that's changing is exactly this ability to deal with ambiguity more than ever, right? So I have built products from scratch in the past, but they were more based on conventional interactions, right? So an app for patient management. It was actually for a company in Boston. Yeah, so I've been doing conventional products for a long time, and I think what's changing now is this idea that you really don't have answers for most of the things. And somebody was asking what kind of research you were doing, and it's a very interesting question. It's like, how do you do research in the AI space? What kind of research? And it's like sometimes you you can't even build prototypes for AI, right? Many times there's a limitation that you can't emulate this unpredictable and non-deterministic behavior in your Figma prototypes. So how do you learn without going in the wild? And so we were doing a lot of studies. We had a lot of diary studies. Diary studies really help with AI because it helps like bring more depth into what you're learning, right? So it's not just a usability testing session that goes on for 30 minutes and you're learning some things that aren't working or potential pain points. It's more like this person is using your product every day and for different use cases and in different moods and in different moments of the day. And is it repeatable? Is it the same experience? Like you're understanding the context. So we were doing diary studies. We were doing a lot of comparative studies between different solutions that we were looking at. Yeah, and classic usability testing sessions, market research. Sometimes we even we did something quite brave with our researcher back then. We constructed a persona with ChatGPT, and that's how we started articulating golden scenarios. Like we knew that probably a person who would need copy and paste in their company most would be a person from doing accounts payable, like who's essentially looking at invoices and then making sure that they're consolidated and getting paid and stuff like that. So we crafted a persona with ChatGPT, and then we started learning if it's accurate. by interviewing these people and then referring back, referencing back what GPT described this person to be, and it was pretty accurate. It was worryingly accurate. Like, it was, but of course, that's information that's out there. Like, what do accounts payable jobs entail? But yeah, diary studies, comparative studies, benchmarking with previous solutions, trying to understand if we're progressing and solving a problem. We had some surveys, but not so we didn't employ quantitative research so much. I think in the AI space you need more qualitative research than and because of the ambiguity and uncertainty and the risking and understanding the limits. But yeah, essentially quite traditional research methods, but
Yeah.
for non-traditional problems.
That's, I was gonna mention that. This sounds like very traditional research that other people who are not working in AI would be doing as well. Were there any research that was radically different because of the AI aspect?
I don't feel so. I don't
Huh.
necessarily maybe because we were like in a conventional mindset for research in general. So we had these methods and we tried to like kind of slightly tweak them to accommodate these unpredictable scenarios, but most of the times, yeah, they were even in research, we were giving them things that we sort of controlled and we could like learn, because the thing is that if you're giving them too much freedom in research, you're going to get something different all the time and you can't even compare the results. Like, you don't know,
Right.
right? It's really hard to so the thing with these ability testing sessions is that you want to do the same thing 10 times and see if you're getting the same results, or like I don't know how to call it. Conditions need to remain the same in some types of studies. And so we were controlling what we were giving them um, to help those conditions remain the same, because with AI they wouldn't. But no, I feel that maybe at Miro we're a bit more brave around what we're learning. We're pulling more live experiments. I think this is it's because the culture of experimentation is different, and I think this has to do with the fact that Miro is well, it's B2C, it's also B2B, but it's more B2C. Let's say you're closer to the end users. I'm getting a lot of feedback even on social media about Miro, right? With UiPath, I didn't have that. It was a company where we could sell our products to the VPs of RPA or robotic process automation. We were talking like we couldn't easily reach our end users, like for like the classic difference between working on B2B and B2C products. And with Miro, because we have a lot more audience and a lot more possibilities for learning, opportunities for learning, sometimes we're doing these experiments in product. And yeah, I think it's a different kind of learning in the wild and much better. Absolutely
Ah,
superior.
got it. I no longer can see the older comments, but I remember somebody had asked about tooling. What kind of programs or apps are you using for designing for AI products? Is it still Figma?
Yeah, it's still Figma. It's
Huh.
still Figma. Yes, because the thing is that again, because of the non-deterministic behavior, you can't accommodate all possible scenarios in whatever prototype. So even if you, I think Axure still is the most sophisticated prototyping tool, and it still wouldn't be able to accommodate that unpredictability aspect, non-deterministic aspect of AI. So I'm using Figma. I am also teaching a course about AI and how to embed AI in your work, but I have to be fair that I'm not using 10 tools for embedding AI in my work. I sometimes use ChatGPT. I sometimes use, like, I experiment with different, sometimes I use the AI capabilities that the tools I'm already using are offering me with. Like, for example, in Miro, I sometimes use the AI, like, for personal gain, not just to test it. It helps me employ the AI capabilities when I'm doing my work in Miro. Same with Notion. Same with, I don't know. Then all of the other products I use now kind of have this AI offering or AI optimizing capabilities. Loom as well. I was just looking at Loom today. That's such a nice application of invisible AI, right? So Loom just cuts your videos into chapters with AI, and then it gives you this like YouTube has the breakpoints of the video. Loom is doing that with AI, and it tells you it's generated by AI, so it's very transparent. I love that. Yeah.
Got it. And here's the question. Thank you so much for repeating it. Uh, in terms of technical skills, like coding or anything else that is esoteric to uh, working on AI stuff? Have you had to pick up anything of the sort?
Well, I didn't personally pick it up, but I feel it's a mistake. I feel that it's ideal for an AI designer to be a bit more technical or make that effort. I'm always in the weeds of doing design and abstractions and that ladder thing. And I'm not a very technical person myself. So it's absolutely possible to work in the AI space without being very technical, but it helps. Like if you understand how the machine learning models work, how we're integrated with GPT, the limitations of the GPT integration, the limitation of the integration with stable diffusion, and so on. So if you're more technical, it can definitely help you just understand the art of possible, like unpack what can we do and spot opportunities as well, right? Because if you understand these technologies very well, you can see opportunities for, oh, I think we could do this with ChatGPT, which for me, I have to rely on my engineering team to come up with stuff that we could do because I like, of course, I understand the concept of AI agents, GPTs, the concept of I don't know, any kind of plugin that GPT has, or I understand the concepts, but I don't understand the depths of it technically, which is also fine. But I think it would be preferred if you had more technical knowledge. It would help you.
For sure. So let's say I have this magic room that I'm gonna give to you, and you can go in there and get free time, and you get say 10 hours of extra free time per day, and time stops outside this room. And your your only goal is to further your career in AI by going to this room. What would you be studying, or what would you be looking into?
Yeah. Um, I have a strong opinion about that. I feel that the best way to understand AI problems and the AI potential and start start building your own library of AI patterns and AI product kind of challenges and solutions is to play with AI products as much as you can. So what's helping me most in my role at Miro, and it might feel very straightforward, but I think not many people do that. I don't do it enough. So what helps me understand what are nice applications, what's a good what is emerging as a pattern, right? So now I'm keeping as tuned as I can to what other products are doing in the market with AI to understand if there's a mental model that's shaping, to understand if users, and it's really interesting that in the research we're doing at Miro, we're already seeing people come in to this AI experience with the GPT mental model, with GPT flavored expectations. Like they expect the same kind of elements that they find in GPT. Like an example would be topics and just being able, like the auto generated topics and being able to revisit them and reopen them and so on. And it's not necessarily something non-conventional, right? So that's how chats work in general. You can revisit topics and so on, but like we're seeing a lot of strong inclinations and expectations that GPT is sort of leading in the market. Chat GPT, I mean. So I think it's really interesting to use a lot of AI products because many companies are just experimenting with stuff, but some things seem to be working. And so they're more prominent and they keep them, and some things they're discarding, and you're learning as it's shaping. You will be a very informed designer if you understand if there are already some standards you can refer, some mental models, some user expectations that the majority of products is consolidating together. So using a lot of AI products is my number one, what I would do with like 6 hours. 1 hour, I would spend time understanding the technical side, like how these products, how these technologies work, not the products, but how, like what can be done with the technologies we have available, different, like the possibilities that, I don't know, using llama or bard instead of GPT, what are the differences, how could that be better, maybe we want to change that in the product, maybe we should look at that. So have some technical understanding, and then also kind of reflect a lot on the ethical parts. I think designers working in the AI space should spend some time really reflecting on the ethical implications of their decisions, because this is not this there are a lot of voices talking about the ethical responsibilities, ethical implications. We're building products that essentially will replace us. Is this something we should be doing in the first place? Like, why are we contributing to this revolution of human replacement in our work? Why aren't we opposing it? Why are we promoting technologies that I don't know, grab our data, or just give us wrong answers, unreliable answers? Sometimes they become aggressive. We've seen the Bing example where it like became very defensive, the AI agent. So there are a lot of dangers to these technologies, and if you want to be a good product designer in the age of AI, you have to be very aware of them, and not like, how can I like, awake when you're making design decisions around AI, and always think about like, there's this drive to just do something because it's technologically possible. Oh my god, we could have that in our product. Let's just do it. But I think that it's the right like, I always reflect and try to imagine how Facebook introduced the like button. Were they aware that they're going to shape the mental health of generations to come? Were they aware of all the social implications, psychological implications, everything that's going to follow from that like button that became addictive, that became, I don't know, even a cause for suicide for many people? Like, their lives started to depend on, like, it's the how can I, the amount of implications was tremendous. Were they aware when they were making that decision? And some of them maybe were, or for some parts maybe they were, for some parts I don't think they were. So it's like, it's just like button. I want to like, my friends will like my photos. What can go wrong with that? And so many things went wrong, right? And I think with AI, we are on shaky grounds, and on we have we're at risk that if we don't think well about what we're doing with these technologies, right? So maybe we're replacing researchers. Is this the right thing to do? I mean, do we want to replace, do we want to contribute to replacing research? An example would be, I'm going to give something inside from Miro. An example would be summarizing sticky notes, right? You want to summarize sticky notes on your board and extract the main themes. But isn't the point of sticky notes that you go through each of them and read them and think critically about them and think what they mean? So do you want to automate that process with AI and then not have the person think critically about each and every insight and decide where it should go and what should happen? So these kinds of ethical conversations are what's needed in the industry, and I would spend time thinking about the ethics of it. It sounds very fluff, like what does it mean to think about ethics? But it actually means something. Like, when you look at every interaction with AI that you're using, maybe just imagine, can this potentially be harmful in any way? Should this have been built? Or when you're making our decision, even more so, should we build this? Yeah.
I love that, and I don't think it's fluffy at all. It's something that's a prime example, as Isabella says, the like button. I don't think, when they were implementing it, they thought of it as something that can actually impact the mental health of teenagers and of a lot of people in the world.
Yeah.
Um, I imagine that your interview process for Miro is very different because they were probably hiring exclusively for an AI specific designer.
Yes.
Are you able to talk a bit about if it's different, or how maybe you approach the process a little bit differently as well, so that other people who are interested in AI focused design roles can maybe have a better idea of how they should approach it?
So the process of applying and getting the job, you mean?
Well, not, I mean, we all know how the job process works, right? You apply, then you get through the interview rounds, there's a final
Yeah.
presentation round,
Yeah.
etc. But how was it different
Yeah.
this time around when you're applying for an AI specific role
Yeah.
versus in the past when you were applying for more just a design role that really doesn't have a lot to do with AI? Was there a different approach in terms of how you present or talk about yourself? Was
Yeah.
there emphasis on different skill set, etc.?
There was. I think it's very transferable to any kind of problem space that you want to showcase in your portfolio. So let's say you're applying to a job in the, I don't know, fashion industry. It helps if you have fashion industry experience and you showcase it in your portfolio. I did the same with AI. So I put forward the AI problems I had to deal with. Some of them I've mentioned: the non-deterministic behavior, handling transformations in our products, teaching people about what AI can do when they might have no concept about those concepts. So the educational aspect, like how do you onboard people into a place where you're not sure what will happen after you onboard them? the challenges that, so I gave them very specific examples in my portfolio walkthrough. I also think, looking back, they were very interested in my display of the vocabulary, like understanding these concepts and just understanding the challenges that generally teams working in the AI space currently have. So they wanted a good partner for the triad, right? There was at Miro, there was no AI designer before me. I'm the first designer on the AI team. The AI team has collaborated with different designers from the company, but I'm the first official hire to work on the AI team as a designer. And so they had some designers contribute to their decisions, but it wasn't consistent in the sense that somebody's really taking the time to spend months and understand the space and craft a narrative and craft a vision from a design standpoint, and then be able to socialize it, get buy-in, get everyone. The thing when you're designing for a very complex product, so copy and paste was a pretty controllable problem space. But at Miro does a lot of things. So you can do um, workshops with it, you can do product planning, you can do agile rituals, you can do all sorts of things in Miro. Many people have their company orgs in Miro, they're collaborating on, I don't know, decorating their bedroom in Miro. So it's the possibilities and the tools that are available in there, like the different teams that are contributing on building this into a cohesive experience. This is where it's a very interesting, yeah, problem space from an AI standpoint. AI has to be invisible and it has to be surfaced at the right moment in your product. But how do you know what that right moment is when it's a big product and a complicated product? And I will never be able to understand the workshop problems as good as the workshop team. So we have to craft this together. So it's a big collaboration effort. And I think this was also something they were looking into. How can we find good collaborators? Because with complex organizations and complex places, you really have to put in these pieces of the puzzle together and surface AI at the right moment in a meaningful way, like meet the user where they need AI and not just push AI down their throat and then hope they will use it and like it, and probably they won't. So yeah, I'm like, I'm very much a fan of the concept of invisible AI, which for me means like just meaningful AI, which means AI at the right moment when it's not intrusive and it's relevant. And so this is what I'm working together with the entire company to find opportunities where we could surface this kind of experience. And that's how I can actually help, not just by having a conversation with an AI, which is something you're summoning, you're generating, you're leading, but also having AI, I don't know, maybe automatically clean up boards for your stuff like that.
Thank you. We only have a few minutes left, unfortunately, and this has been super exciting. Is there a final message that you would like to impart on everyone, or something you would like to plug, such as your course, International Interaction Design Foundation, which I forgot to mention earlier? That's another big win.
Yeah, I have a course for AI, on AI for designers. I'm gonna leave it in the comments if that's possible. It's a course about AI for designers. Yeah, I don't want to plug things because then I feel like I'm salesy, so I hate it. But yeah, now it's plugged, so I did it. I'm gonna maybe share the link in the comments as well. And no, I just want to thank everybody that joined, and I love the comments that I've been reading here and the questions, and everybody seems to be very on point with their observations. So yeah, I'm just happy I got the chance to talk about all these things here.
Thank you so much for taking the time today. It's been fascinating. I've learned a whole lot. I definitely would, now I kind of know how to speak about designing for AI for my next job interview, even though I don't have the experience. So thank you very much for teaching all this. Thank you. And thanks to everyone for staying through this entire thing. And sorry about the technical difficulties. I thought you were just so flexible and kind of ran with it. And I appreciate that. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Take care.